Hello everyone, Pierce Nation here. Welcome back to a new video. Today we will be discussing the next best deck. So, before you, we do have Vanquish Soul. How good is Vanquish Soul going to be? It is, without a doubt in my mind, going to be the best deck. There is no deck out right now that can really compete with this. Kashtira is the closest thing to it, and it got nerfed so hard, I don't think it'll come back. So what makes this deck so hard to play against? Number one, they run There Can Only Be One, which is an amazing floodgate that they have on their own. To even have the ability to play this card is absolutely insane. So, not only do they have this, but they have DD Crow for literally any out that you could possibly have. They do run 3 Ash in main and 3 Droll in main because they have plenty of room. Here in the future, I would say they'll probably just run Droll. They'll probably side Ash for like branded matchups. But I would say they'll probably run Imperm in the main. Now the 3-pot, that's pretty standard. And the Parallel Exceed, there's 2 builds. There's one that plays Fire Formation Tinky, which adds Pantera here. Or you run Parallel Exceed, and when you link summon off of Vanquisher, the Rock of the Vanquisher here, it kind of like ups everything. So it goes insane. So this deck is pretty straightforward. It's pretty either you're going to beat me turn 1 or I'm just going to hit you in the mouth. So with your main 3, so your main 3 is Soul Ryzen and Soul Dr. Mad Love. These are literally your best. And one of the reasons that this is one of your best is because of these things' effect. So their effects are actually kind of busted. Same with this dude here. Caesar Vallis is absolutely insane, and so is Heavy Border. So, with these cards, why are they insane? So they are an archetype that uses a bunch of in-hand effects, and we will go over Ryzen here. So Ryzen has 2 effects. His first effect, if you reveal an Earth, he becomes unaffected by your opponent's activated effects for the turn, and these are quick effects, by the way. Like, whenever. Second effect, Earth, Fire, and Dark destroy 1 other card on the field. So you can only use each effect of Caesar once per turn, but you cannot activate them in the same. So, Borger, he has basically the same effects. Basically, if you reveal a dark, you draw 1, and if you have Earth and Fire, you inflict 1500 damage to your opponent. So, if you get 2 turns, you can inflict 3000 damage to your opponent for basically doing nothing. So, and plus this thing's a 2500 body. It's kind of not easy to get through. So that makes it just that much harder to get through. Plus, to summon either of these, they're not hard. They're both quick effects to special summon. The only difference is this has to be a non-machine, and this one just has to be a non-dragon Vanquisher. Which, FYI, these are the only types. So you can't get rid of Valus to special Valus, and you can't get rid of Borger to special Borger. Like that's literally it. All the rest of them, they're all different types. So this is one of the most underrated ones that I have found, but it is probably one of the best. So Vanquish Soul Pluton HG. Don't know what the HG stands for, but during your opponent's turn, if you control no monsters, or if you only control Vanquish Soul monsters in your main monster zone, just saying, if you control a Vanquish Soul in the main monster zone, You can spell summon this card from hand. Quick effect. You can activate one of these effects by revealing monsters in your hand with the listed attributes. Fire gains 3000 defense. Dark and Earth. This card gains 3000 defense or 3000 attack until the end of this turn. You can only use each effect. Blah blah blah. You can't use them in the same chain. Okay, whatever. Doesn't really matter. Basically, if you have fire and dark, you're basically, or fire, dark, and earth, you can activate both where it gains 3000 defense, 3000 attack. It's kind of insane. So, it's very underrated. So, with this card, you keep adding it back with the link monster, and you keep special summoning it. And as long as you can get it out, it is just another body to be linked off. Or, you know, it's just a good generic body, because number one, it's a zombie, and the rest of them are not this type. Again, there can only be one. Goes super hard in this deck. This deck is super hard out. For you to have the answers to this deck, and for kashtira to be able to play this deck, it would be rather ridiculous, to say the least. So we go to Pantera. Pantera is probably one of the worst ones of them all, I would say. I'd say Pantera is probably your worst one, but it is not bad at all. So, if you control no monsters in your main monster zone, you can spell summon this card from your hand. Quick effect, you can activate one of these effects by revealing monsters in your hand with the listed attributes. Earth cannot be destroyed by battle. Earth and fire destroy all spells traps in this card's column. Now, why is this good? Okay, so allow me to give you a scenario. Let's say skill drain is active. This card is on field, and you activate its effect, revealing earth and fire. Okay. Although skill drain does negate effects on field, the minute you activate this, you chain Siege of Velis or Heavy Border, and their effect reads: during the main phase, quick effect, you can target one non-dragon Vanquish soul monster you control, return it to the hand, and if you do, spell summon this card from your hand. So basically, when this card activates and it gets returned to the hand, at least the field skill drain doesn't apply and it pops skill drain. That's basically how that works. So, like, this deck can get through just about anything. Next on the list is Vanquish Soul, Dr. Mad Love. This is your second best normal summon in the deck, if not your number one. But I count this as the number two because there's a lot of game scenarios to where this card sometimes doesn't come up. So if this card is normal special summon, you can add one Vanquish Soul spell or trap from deck to your hand. Quick effect, you can activate one of these effects by revealing monsters in your hand with a listed attribute. So if it is dark, one face-up monster your opponent controls loses 500 attack and defense. Dark and Earth, return one monster with the lowest defense on the field to the hand. Your choice if tied. So it could be your field, it could be your opponent's field. Of course it's going to be your opponent's field. No one's going to argue that. And again, you can't use them in the same chain. And this one's pretty easy, pretty straightforward. You just need Dark and Earth. Super easy. Rise in here. I'm gonna finish at the end for a minute so I can actually get this to do this right. So for this one is what I'm calling the best normal summon in this deck. So if this card is normal or special summon, you can add one non-warrior Vanquish Soul monster from deck to hand. If you did not know, that is every single Vanquish Soul except for Raisin. Or Raisin, I'm sorry. So with Raisin, it has a quick effect. You can activate one of these effects by revealing monsters in your hand with the listed attributes. Fire cannot be destroyed by card effects. Fire and Dark destroy all monsters in this card's column. You can only use one effect per. So, where does this card like get like a total boost? This card like basically is a total boost. This card is like rather ridiculous. simply because it doesn't really care like what you're doing, because you could literally just normal summon this in a column. So funny enough, I'm just gonna go ahead and cut myself off here. This deck can go first or second. This deck does not care, because where these cards destroy cards in columns, they don't care what you do. You could have probably the best floodgate versus this deck, and this card could easily get to a good one, or even Dr. Madlove could get to Stake Your Soul. So if, let's say by chance, I have Border in hand, and I'm like, I can't really do much with this, and I have, let's say, like Mad Love, or I have Horizon, and I'm trying to get to like Pluton or whatever. It's not hard to do that. You just activate Stake Your Soul and it does the work for you. Or if somehow you can sim on the grave, you can get it back with this. So the deck is like absolutely insane. Like you have to be like on your A game. And I've tested this deck a lot. It does have a lot of interactions to where like your opponent is forced to either try or die. So like kashtira against this, once this card gets on, they will try to remove this. So I believe that like if we take out Ash and put like Imperman, I believe that works a lot better, because this deck is just rather insane. Plus, you can make Zeus, you can make Constellar Diamond, you can make Constellar Plead, you can make Stellar Knight Deltros, you can make Baguska, you can make Cidian Knight, Abyss Dweller, Protomalius, Chalconine, Bobor. Phoenix is okay. Donner Dagger, again, is okay. But your Vanquish Soul is where things are really going to start heating up. And I'm telling you, it's absolutely busted. I love the whole deck. This is probably one of the best cards. I might up this to 2, because this card is just like so damn good. So it's basically a Book of Moon equal to the number of Vanquish Soul monsters you have. So if you're playing there can only be one, and your opponent is able to get 2 types out, you just flip Devil Dust, flip them face down, and that's basically all she wrote. Now, if, let's say we're in a Vanquish Soul mirror match, what would be a card I would side in? So there can only be one, would not hurt your opponent at all. So I would probably like, if I go mirror, I'd probably side these out. I'll leave my DD Crows. And again, like run like Imperm, whatever. So I would basically just take out there can only be one, and I would side in like Anti-Spell Fragrance, because that would be like 10 times better. Or you could run like Ash or whatever you would need. So does this deck lose to Ash? Honest to God, no. So let's say we do this, and the effect to add one gets negated. Fine. So you basically go to Vanquisher, Rock Vanquisher here, which can extend you even past where you are. So if you have another Vanquish Soul like Madlove, you can literally just special Madlove. Get Stake Your Soul effect, and then it gets you to Pluton. And then Pluton can extend you a little bit further, and if you have any of these guys, you just plus. Like none other. Like it's absolutely insane. Or let's say, like I go Ryzen, effect the special one. I go Mad Love, and then I have Pantera, and then you Stake Your Soul. I get straight into Caesar. Like, it's so easy. And what I love about these guys is they don't have restriction. So normally with like really good cards, especially like Caesar, they have these effects that kind of like cut them short, where like literally it's like cannot be special summoned by the Wes. No, these cards are just free. They're free, and any time that you get Caesar on, like he's an immediate threat, and like your opponent will have to kaiju. If they do not kaiju, they just auto lose, because Caesar will literally kill them. Plus, you can make any rank monster you want, and they're all good. Like you can make Zeus. Zeus is a bit unneeded. Now, here's a good reason why I talk about this extra deck so much. So if you start looking at the extra deck, you're gonna notice there are a lot of different types. So we have Rock, we got a Beast Warrior, we've got a Fiend, we've got 2 more Beast Warriors, we've got a Warrior type, a Sea Serpent, another Fiend, another Fiend, another Warrior, a Worm, and a Machine. There are people that are playing this deck, and they've got like a lot of the same types in it. Where me, I'm playing under there can only be one, so I know that I need the best rank engines I can get, and the best link engines I can get, and they need to be different types. So if a card gets outed, I know how to do this. Now, here's something that's even better. You say, well, what if I can only get out something like Stellar Diamond, and I have Vanquisher Rock on, and I've got this thing in defense mode, and I keep revealing, I believe it's like you reveal like you reveal Ash to make it gain 3000, and you're like, well, I'm trying to stay alive. Funny enough, this little link here has a great effect. That's why you control a Vanquish Soul monster. Your opponent monsters can only target monsters you control with the highest attack. While you control a Vanquish Soul monster. So allow me to explain to you why this is broken. Number 1. If you have something on like a Stellar Diamond or Zeus, they have to attempt to swing into it. Simply because the soul of the, I believe it's called the Soul of Vanquisher. I believe it's what it's called. The Rock of Vanquisher. So, Rock of Vanquisher here is not considered a Vanquish Soul monster. That's the number 1 thing you have to keep in mind. It is not considered. So before there's like any rollings on it, even though it says it takes 1 Vanquish Soul, this card is not a Vanquish Soul. If it was Rock of the Vanquish Soul, that would make sense. This is just Rock of the Vanquisher. So this is not, I repeat, not a Vanquish Soul card. So if this card is the only one on field and you're trying to apply this effect, that is completely wrong. You cannot do that. That is highly illegal. However, with this card, it does give you plenty of ways to extend via adding 1 and then specialing 1. The major thing is with this card is during main phase quick effect, you can activate one of these effects. You only use this effect of Rock Vanquisher once per turn. So if you add 1, you're done. If you special 1, you're done. This card literally has hard restrictions, and it says Rock of the Vanquisher. So there is no way around it. It is not a soft per turn. It is a hard once per effect. So you cannot add 1 and then use effect to special 1. That is very illegal. You can't do that at all. So like this deck is the best deck coming out, and it is going to be the best deck, and you're gonna have to deal with it. And knowing how to deal with it is what you're gonna have to know. So if you're facing this deck, what are the number 1 good cards that you could play? Number 1 is Gozamatch. Gozamatch won't win you 100%, but it will get you 50% there. Number 2 is Rivalry of the Warlords. Number 3 is Anti-Spell Fragrance. And I believe the fourth card, which is a floodgate, and I know these are all floodgates, but you can figure out better cards. I'd like to see them. Is mind control. So if you don't know what mind control is, allow me to show you. Or brain control. Is that what it is? It's either. I thought it was mind control. I think I got some filters applied. What? I believe it's still stuck to monster. Why? I'm not quite sure why it's not bringing up things the way it should. Shut off. There we go. There it is. This card right here. So you want to know a good card to beat this deck with, because this deck is, again, it's going to be like 2-0, but not quite. Because of this card. So this card keeps it at bay, and you can really out their effects. Now, if you're trying to play the effects game with them, you're not going to last very long. Like, this deck's going to beat you into the ground, like 100%. So, like, you have to be prepared, because, like, everything they do is going to be hand trap related. So, like you trying to literally fight them is not going to work. So their monster effects in hand are going to be ridiculous. Now, the effects that happen on field to reveal in hand, you cannot stop that. Like, this will not stop it. What mind drain does in particular is if effect to special, effect to do something, like Pluton, where activates in hand and specials. Like, these cards are really good against it, and I want to read these just to make sure 100% that they do activate in hand. Yeah, so he activates in hand, and so does Order. So these two will not work under Mind Drain. This guy doesn't really care. The only thing he cares about is if there are no monsters, or there's only Vanquish monsters. Quick effect, he does activate, so you would even hit him too. Now this one right here doesn't care. So the rock doesn't care at all. So the special summon monster from hand, or add a Vanquish Soul monster from graveyard to hand, doesn't really care. But for what Mind Drain is concerned about is neither player can activate the effects of monsters. So this would be like a really good card against it to out it. And they couldn't use like any hand traps, like period. You literally can't. Like, when Mind Drain is considered, you literally can't. Now a lot of players will not play this card simply because it is going to restrict their gameplay, and their sideboards will not be prepared to play this card. So they're gonna try to fight Vanquish Soul the way it is, and trust me when I say this, this deck is not a good time to face. So, you know, you can do what you want, but you need to be prepared for this deck, like 110%. It's gonna be at your locals here eventually, and it is going to wreck you, and then you're gonna get mad, and you're gonna say, well, why didn't my new kashtira deck work? Simply because this deck literally does not care. This deck does not care, like, whatsoever. Like, this deck bodies every meta deck, like kashtira, Borelli, Mathmech, super heavy, Labyrinth, Branded, like you name it. This deck just kills it. The only deck that can play under this and fight it to a certain extent is Branded. Because Branded can play under, there can only be one, but if they don't have the right cards, they cannot. To where Vanquish Soul, it's a guarantee. Guarantee you're always gonna have that card you're looking for. Always gonna have that card. And like Mind Drain hurts it to an extent. To an extent. But again, like I was telling you, they do have ways to out cards like this very easily. And it is Mad Love. It does not matter. Was it Mad Love? It was not Mad Love. I believe it was Pantera, correct? Yep. Again, tried to tell you. This is gonna be like one of the best decks that you're ever gonna see in Yu-Gi-Oh's history. But is it going to be the best deck for long? No. Because you have Salmon Gray coming out with full support, you have Red Dragon Synchro coming out with their stuff, and they get a lot of support, and then you have Altergeist on the back end of Unchained Salmon Great, and then the Red Dragon Archfiend Synchro deck. So you put those decks together, and you say, well, which one's the best deck? Right now, they are projecting two best decks to be Altergeist and not Salmon Great, but Unchained. So they're saying that Altergeist and Unchained will be the two best decks. Now, if you would want to see what the new Altergeist deck would look like and what's the main combo line you need to go down, I can show that to you. The Unchained deck, I have not personally looked into Unchained, like the old version nor the new one. I'm kind of interested to see like a Red Dragon Archfiend type deck in the current meta. I don't know nothing about it because I didn't. I got out of the game before 5 days, so I wasn't really not really impressed with that deck. So, but basically, our meta is going to be changing very, very rapidly. So you need to like stay on your heels, stay on watch, because this deck, when it comes to your locals, will mess you up big time. Without further ado, I'm Pierce Nation, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Pierce Nation out.